Boom! Welcome back to another episode of Sage Ramble TV.
Ooh,
Is it episode 11 or 12? It's episode 11, right?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I think
Cool,
it's
cool,
11.
cool. So, without further ado, we are introducing you the topic rapid fire Q&A. So, we've gathered a bunch of questions, literally in the last hour, and from our chat messages, group messages, the masterminds that we're in, and we're just gonna throw some out there, discuss, and answer all of them. And if you do have any questions for another rapid fire Q&A session in the podcast, drop them down in the comments, and we'll go through each and every one of them. Cool, man.
Yeah, bro. I'm for it. I love it.
Let's
This
go.
is it's a very fun topic, and um, there's a ton of questions that we both get. So yeah,
Awesome. So I'm just gonna throw with a very hot topic, right? I got this question yesterday by another student in the mastermind. Not gonna name any names, but it goes like this: what advice would you give someone who started their first sales job and miserably failed the first 2 weeks closing and got cut from the team? I'm seeking redemption and a desire to prove myself in high ticket sales. What do I do now? That's the question.
it's a long-winded fucking question.
It is.
So when I hear that, I compare to like trading, whether it's options or stocks or forex. It's kind of like an unrealized loss, right? And by that, if not everybody's educated on trading, so if and this is just an analogy I'm using here, if you take a trade and you're down, that's not a loss until you get out of that trade, aka giving up, right? So for me, um, that's what I think of when it comes to situations like this, because I've been on an offer where it fizzled out or things didn't work out right. It's not a loss until you give up, right? So personally, we've got two paths, not really paths. I'm brain farting on the word here, but in life we have wins and we have lessons, right? If you don't win, you learn a lesson. So if something like that were to happen, I would spend a good amount of time figuring out what went wrong, why it went wrong, and how you can improve those areas so you don't make the same mistakes twice, right? Because if you fix the things that went wrong the first time and you go in, obviously nothing's perfect. You might make a couple more mistakes, but you're going to know not to do X, Y, and Z on the next opportunity. What was the second part of the question? They
Just like
seeking
a
desire to prove themselves in high ticket sales. What do I do now? Yeah. So basically, to sum all that up, don't give up, because it's not a loss until you give up, right? Um, Personally, I would say keep your head down, keep at it, do what I said in terms of figuring out what went wrong, how you can learn from that, implement, and then just chalk it up as a learning lesson. It's 2 weeks, bro. Like, come on, 2 weeks.
yeah.
Like, that's like this, man. But yeah, that's my side of that. What about you, David?
No, I mean it's like the lesson that you just told me, or pretty much sharing the decision. It pretty much applies to everything, right? I mean, it's sports. Let's say boxing, because boxing is a really hot topic with all the YouTubers right now. Boxing. There's one dude called Deji. He lost 3 of his fights. That doesn't mean that he's failed miserably and he can't come back and win another one. But he came back and won one fight, and now he's back on his redemption train. So it's are you quitting completely out of those 2 weeks because of that happening? The trauma, whatever occurred, or are you looking to just get into another gig, learn from that, analyze what happened before, and just go from there?
Exactly, right. Because I mean, some people learn quicker. Some people have instant success. Others don't have instant success. I made a post about this the other day, and I can almost guarantee you, whoever asked you that is probably comparing themselves to somebody else's story. Comparison is the thief of joy, right? Whether each way, right? If you're doing really well and you compare yourself to somebody who's doing better, you're not going to feel as good. Or if you're doing not well up to your standards and you compare yourself to somebody who's not doing as well as you, it's going to make you feel better temporarily, but it's a thief of joy, right? Because then you're going to let off the um, let off the gas, right?
Yep. And I personally like to I think it works to a crowd, like a specific crowd, when it comes to comparison, right? I know when I compare, my year one to someone's year five, it just motivates me. It just gives me inspiration that I'm gonna go harder, go at it in like much more intensive. But for the other crowd, comparing year 10 to my year two is like, I suck, not worthy, all that self doubt comes in, and it's not going to serve you by thinking that way. On the other side, right, with comparison, there is healthy comparison, which I call it, and that is comparing year two to year two, year one to year one. You might have a mentor or an idol that you look up to in high ticket sales, um, but you need to make sure to compare year five to your year five. You can't compare year two to their year 20, because I asked a closer. He's making 44K a month. I was like, bro, how did you get there? And he said 2 decades. I was like, 2 decades, and that gives you the perspective of, all right, so maybe I'm too impatient, making 20, 40K a month, getting to that point, and I'm in year two, right? I mean, there's tons of time. It's an 18-year time difference compared to where that other dude is that I'm comparing myself to. But that's pretty much for that question. I'm just gonna throw in another one, man.
No, definitely, man. Real quick. Where the fuck is my video, bro? It's there. It is. Okay, cool. Like my tab dropped for some reason. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you, man. I'm also coming into my second year. I just finished my first full year in online sales as of the 7th of this month, so 4 days ago. But even then, I would be just a little bit leery of comparing yourself to other people, even if you're comparing where you guys are on your path, because everybody has different skill sets. Everybody has different backgrounds, different experiences, right? So a prime example would be if somebody got on a really good opportunity in their first couple of months, right? And they made good money, and then somebody who wasn't able to get on a good opportunity and didn't make any money, right? If you compare yourself to that person, even if they're both 2 months in, most people are gonna feel really shitty that you weren't able to land that opportunity, right? That's just my 2 cents. But let's go ahead and move forward to the next question, bro.
Yes, sir. So it says, do you have any recommendations? Got any recommendations for mistakes to avoid as a setter, or anything that holds people back? Meaning, this comes from a guy that is just about to start. He's 13 days in high ticket sales, and he's just about to start his setting role, and he's very self motivated, self disciplined. I see a lot of myself in him, and he's just curious to what holds people back from really accelerating in that first position that you're working in.
Yeah. Great question, man. I'm gonna try and keep with the rapid fire, not going super long winded here. I would say don't be afraid to eat shit, right? So people are gonna tell you to fuck off. People are gonna tell you you're a scam. People are gonna tell you to leave them alone. People who opt in for you to call them are gonna act like they didn't opt in for you to call them. Don't take it personal. Don't take it to heart. Move on to the next lead. If you're in a good offer, they're gonna be coming in like crazy, right? Someone tells you to fuck off, hang up the phone, dial the next. Bridges is my next point, which is smile and dial. If you're on an outbound offer, you're going to be doing a lot of dialing, right? You're going to be doing a lot of texting, a lot of outreach. So there's a stigma where people are like uncomfortable cold calling. I recommend a practice to people. And that's before you get on an offer, start with your friends and family first. Cold call your friend, cold call a family member. Right? It's a way to ease into the uncomfortability because you're still cold calling. You just know the person on the other end. So it's going to be a cold call. It's just going to getting those reps and talking and don't talk about the normal stuff that you talk about, right? Try and talk about some things that are off topic and keep the conversation going. So then when you have to cold call random strangers and talk to them about your offer, it's going to be easier. And then mistakes to avoid, I would say, stay out of the weeds. So don't just let somebody ramble and go on rambles yourself. I know we're kind of, it's what we do over here, but it's not good on a sales call. Definitely stay out of the weeds, and don't be that setter that's like, hey, is this David? Well, this is Chance with blah 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 company. Like, nobody likes that, man. Like, the over the top salesy is
Yep.
that's
Yep.
my 2-minute rapid fire, David. What about yours, man?
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw in a quick minute here, and that is there's a lot of new people that comes into sales, and that was I was one of them. I was so emotionally drained from just talking with people 8 hours a day, even more. My first month and second month, I worked for 14 days, 14-hour days, right? And those days will just emotionally drain you. So being more intentional on what you do to your health and fitness, and really just keeping a steady routine that you can that you kind of like get excited to wake up for. Like, you don't want to head to bed the day before and be like, oh, I gotta meditate, I gotta do this, I gotta read for 30 minutes. I hate that. I keep it a really simple routine. The routine that I have now is just I wake up, I hydrate myself, I do some inner work that involves meditation, very calming. I go and work out, and then I visualize. And that's my entire routine. It takes an hour and a half, and then I'm off to work, either checking emails or doing something else. It's very, very simple, keeps it on going. It's not like I do gratitude 5 minutes, I meditate 10 minutes, I visualize for 15. Like, it's not scheduled that way. I just keep it very open. So that's one recommendation for you, doing lots of volume, right? So you can keep the stamina. Boom. Let's move on.
Let's do it, man.
So what are your thoughts on having 2 or 3 closer positions? Does that apply to setting as well, having 2 setter positions in case one falls off?
So this is a tricky question for somebody like me, because if you're taking the actions under the assumption that something's going to fall off, you're planning to fail. That's my mindset. It's a very controversial topic. We all have our own opinions. Obviously, anything can happen, right? Literally, I mean, like, your offer can close their doors tomorrow and say, "Hey, we're done." However, I think that if you are of the mindset of something bad is going to happen, then you're planning for something bad to happen, and that's just not how I live my life personally. But I answered this question the other day to somebody inside of our mastermind, and I say that this question, the answer to this, lies within your goals and who you are as a person, right? So, if as a person you want to work a shit ton of hours to maximize, if you want to put a bunch input in to get as much output out, because that's your goal, is to hit whatever figure that equals, right? Then go for it. If you're more like me and you like to do things outside of taking sales calls, and you like to, enjoy some free time, right, outside of doing business stuff, then maybe not take on 2-3 offers, right? It's really, it depends on the person, and it depends on their goals, in my opinion, right? Because you take 2 offers on, and before you know it, you could be working 10-12 hours a day, which for some people that's chilling, bro. You can do that, right? And some people, like myself, I only take six sales calls a day, right? I'm fine with that. I want to work on stuff, my own personal business, and then I like to enjoy my free time as well. So that's my answer.
Yeah. I am very much the person who's like all into business, right? Like the 12, 13 hours, it doesn't, scare me away. I'm more excited for that, waking up in the morning, seeing, oh shit, I got like 13 hours doing outbound, taking calls, managing stuff. That gets me excited. So I'm more of the opposite, but I've had a very long belief that you just find a great company, just one, and you stick with that company for a long time, because that will kind of like build up the loyalty. You just focus on one place. You don't need to learn 2 marketing campaigns. You don't need to learn 2 different companies, their visions. And keeping track on that on your mind is like so much easier having just one than 2, where you almost like mix the marketing campaigns, which I've done, and it's not fun. When you're in that overwhelming state. But I've also switched that belief quite recently, that having two offers, it's just to some shape or form like security instincts. Especially what I went through in my previous offer, a war broke out. The office were in Ukraine, so I had to, switch, right? And when I look back, it would have made sense if I had to, right? Because 2 months before the war actually happened, like that was when the skepticism started. Of all right, so they're probably going to evacuate, and yeah, I guess like it's just like the intention behind what you're looking to do. Just like what you said with setting goals and having those align with your vision itself. But two setting gigs is insane. Two setting gigs is insane. I can imagine two closer positions because the calls are kind of like pre-scheduled. But setting gigs is like you just put in volume. I wouldn't be able to kind of like be aware of myself to do more volume here, or like to split the volume. I would just go ham on one, and then that would be it.
No, I agree, man. And I don't believe that that's sustainable long term, because I was that guy when I first got into the online sales world. I'm like, I'm going to work all day, every day, and make as much money as possible. And I did that for a couple of months when I was a setter. And then I was like, wow, I don't have time to do anything. I'm not seeing my loved ones. I'm not, enjoying time. Because I mean, work isn't what we do is enjoyable if you truly enjoy it. But at the end of the day, I mean, I want to enjoy the money I'm making too, right? So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, that also comes from a coach that I worked with 2 years ago. I mean, he was working 40 days a week, 9 hours a day, and making more than average, like 15K a month, like consistently. And some months he hit 20K. So he had 3 days of just enjoying himself. Even the days he was working, he was living the van life. So, I mean, there's just two different goals.
When I say enjoy myself, I don't mean sitting around doing nothing. I mean, teaching myself through a mentorship how to trade the financial markets. I mean, building a business with David. I mean, networking. I mean, spending time with my dog outside, walking her. Right? Like, I'm not just sitting here watching YouTube videos, right? Like,
staring at the dust particles.
Yeah,
Nice. So here's a question for you, Chance, because this is your field, right? What do you do when a prospect shotguns you with objections after you drop the price? Is that a natural reaction due to fear, or is there a pre-handling process to avoid that from happening?
What do you do when a prospect shotguns you with objections after you drop the price? It's kind of a two-part answer. So there is a way to pre-handle almost every single concern and objection through different questions that you ask, tie downs, commitments. Those are, I mean, I've got a whole presentation coming on those. We can be here for an hour and talk about those and why they're important. So I would say learn to pre-handle a lot of those, but 99% of the time, if you drop price, and let's just throw pre-handling out of the window here, because I'm trying to take myself back to when I wasn't pre-handling. 99% of the time, if someone's like, I got to think about talking about, they're scared, right? It's a fear thing, and you can try and handle them one at a time. But something I learned through a very well-known person in this industry is to basically just call it as it is and be like, yeah, man. So all of those things aside, right? Because right now you're just, you're giving me 100 reasons. What's like the one that's truly holding you back, right? And it's a way to clarify and to isolate, because, like I said, 9 times out of 10, if somebody throws a handful of objections at you, you haven't done your job pre-handling, and you probably weren't good in the discovery, and they're not bought into the process. But let's just hypothetically say you did all those things. Yeah, it's fear. It's fear. Let me go back to the question here because I got to see if I answered it correctly. Reading a prospect, is that a natural reaction to fear? Is there some pre-handling process with it? Okay, yeah. So there's definitely pre-handling to avoid that from happening. And I would say sometimes it's a natural reaction due to fear. It depends on what kind of offer you're on. I do biz op. And a lot of new closers, they get smashed with objections on biz op because it's the first time somebody's probably going to invest in themselves. And it's somebody who doesn't have a lot of money. And that's why they're here, because they want to make money. So they're scared to spend it. And the single most important thing you can learn how to do, in my opinion, when it comes to objections, pre-handling aside, is learn how to handle fear. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and fear comes up after you kind of like take care of the logistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
absolutely.
I'm just gonna rapid fire the other question. It's kind of a long question.
Yeah.
But it goes like this. I understand in objection handling that there are SOPs dealing with each concern, the best possible way to help the other person. But when I listen to content and other great salespeople, many use of reframes and stories to make a point. Is there a way to learn that, or is it just one of those things you need to memorize? It's just like you talking about like the Mexican food
Mm-hmm.
and that favorite food analogy. But is that something you learn or memorize?
So you never want to memorize in sales because then you're just reading a script in your head, right? But absolutely. So analogies and reframes are something that take time to build. And there's something that'll come natural after you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reps in, like I do and David has, and probably the people you're talking about here. So for now, borrow ones from people who you know work. And then as you get used to using them, personalize them more to you and to the prospect. Something that works really well is basically personalizing it to, I'm trying to think how to word this, personalizing it to the prospect, but also not individualizing, kind of sharing your experience, right? So when I handle fear-based objections, I let them know I've been in your seat. I've invested in myself, right? The reason I'm asking these questions, or the reason why we're doing this, is because I know what it feels like to be where you are, right? And then I'll tell them a little story about myself, and then I'll reframe it back to the fear that they're feeling. That's all stuff that's going to come natural after you get reps. I assume this was probably like a new closer that messaged you, right, David?
Yeah, like a fairly new closer, definitely within this past year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I didn't start learning that kind of stuff until like so I went through a mentorship group my first month closing, and I borrowed his analogies, a ton of his analogies and reframes. I didn't start personalizing him until like 4 to 5 months into sales. Because you gotta, I hate the word memorize because then you're just reading a script. It is technically correct. You got to be able to pull them out of the hat, right? On the drop of a dime when somebody gives you something, to be able to reframe. And people love, sales is a story, right? People love stories.
Yep.
And analogies and reframes are stories, and you got to be able to pull them out. But after you get good at pulling them out, then it's where you personalize them. You personalize them to the prospect, you personalize them to yourself, and you start using different ones, right? Because you don't want to use the same two every single time, because then, I mean, you're that boring salesman, right, that uses the same two, right? And what if one doesn't land? Then you're like, oh, fuck. Right? So that would be my advice
Having a
in
stroke,
a
yeah.
short scope there. I know I'm going a little bit long on these answers, but these are some really good
It's good.
questions. I could talk a lot more about them, but we're
It's
here
a
for
really good question. I think we need another episode on just talking objections and like especially the reframe part, because I've had a ton of sales training. Like I've probably invested north of a 20K in sales training over 12 months, right? And especially having to experience a lot of different sales mentors, sales trainers, and their way of doing stuff. There's one analogy of baking a cake that I never understood, but it wasn't until I kind of like learned, kind of like reframe myself in time, where oh shit, I know what this means. I can make an analogy of school instead of baking a cake, right? So it's kind of like a little bit of personal development, and you can prove me wrong here, or say that I'm definitely off the scope. But it's you have to be able to develop yourself to a point where you see the bullshit a mile away, and that's when you are able to tell the stories, analogies, reframes, or hooks because you understand it yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The single most important thing that I talk about in objection handling is to separate the person from the objection and allow them to see that their objection is stupid. Right? Because I mean, it's if you have done your job and you have truly qualified this prospect and they need your services, they know they need it, and they've said they want your services, those objections are stupid, right? And we need to get them to realize that what they just said is kind of dumb. Now, if you haven't done your job and you're just trying to sell anybody with a heartbeat, maybe they don't truly need your services. Maybe they don't even truly want it and they're just being nice to you because they've invested 45 minutes of their life under the call. It's going to be a little bit hard. Right?
Yep. No, that's so good. That's so good. Now, another question which there's a bunch of questions, but I'm just selecting this one that has come up a lot in my personal Facebook DMs, which is best way to qualify an offer. And this is, imagine qualifying an offer and, breaking it down to a 3-year-old. It's to that level. There was one testimonial this week when he texted me of, when he you and I both know him because he's both in our DMs, but he texted me and, he kept that within 10 follow-ups, like, hey, dude, I really want help. This means a lot to me. So I spent like 15 minutes, DM chatting of, hey, dude, here's how you will carry out the interviews. Here are the 15 questions you need to ask. Here's how you qualify like the transactions, how much closers are making. Here's how you qualify the marketing. Here's how you qualify the leadership. Here's how you ask that question. All of that in 15 minutes. And the day after landed the offer, which was a good feeling. It was a good outcome. But for you, when you, approach and qualify an offer, what's kind of your 10,000 feet overview in the way that you do it?
Yeah. So for me, I qualify personally and professionally. So personally, I want the offer to be in alignment with what I want to be doing. I want to see myself enjoying selling what they're selling. I want to enjoy the culture. I want to be in alignment with the owners and why they're doing what they're doing outside of money, because everybody wants more money, right? That's fucking the richest people in the world want more. That's why the wealth gap continues to grow, right? And I guess, yeah, that's all I want to talk about personally. There's more to it there, but make sure it aligns with you morally and ethically, and you're going to enjoy it. And more importantly, weird focus going on there. More importantly, what I always say is don't sell something that you wouldn't do yourself, right? Because if you're not convicted enough based on the results that they have that you wouldn't do it yourself, you probably shouldn't be selling it to other people. That doesn't mean you have to do it, right? A lot of salespeople don't want to take on a business and sell and do whatever it is. That's cool. That's totally fine. But if you don't see yourself doing it, I wouldn't do it. And then professionally, man, I look at how long have they been in business, right? What are they doing month to month basis? What is their best closer doing? What is their worst closer doing? How many closers are on the team? What their sales process looks like. So I want to see start to finish, right? What a normal lead is going to go through before they get to me, right? I want to see the landing page. I want to see the VSL. I want to see the video after the VSL. I want to see the booking if that's a thing. I want to hear how the setters are communicating, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And obviously these aren't like, you don't ask all of these in one sitting. And on top of that, I do the math based on what they give me on what the OTE is. I never ask for OTE because they're gonna inflate that number. We all know this. So based on what the highest closer is doing and the numbers they provide me. So as an example, what is the best closer's close rate? What is the worst closer's close rate? Right? How many appointments do I get a week, and what's the show rate? And then I back engineer, reverse engineer based on those numbers, best case, worst case scenario, what I could be making, right? And then after I do all of that, which is my personal and professional, and I know it sounds like a lot, but you can literally do this in one day. It's just a lot of steps. After I do all that, if it's a fit, I mean, I accept the offer.
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar, but I think the way you and I qualify, it's very similar to the point. I mean, we had the same mentor. But the first step that I usually go with, and I don't separate this personally and professionally. I I focus a lot on alignment, right? Which is why I focus so much on like understanding your own vision, but also having your core values and principles down. Because when you look at alignment with a company, it has to align with what you believe in and those rules that you live by. If
Exactly.
that breaks the first one, it's a no-go. Like the money might have been there making, other people doing 40K a month. But if it kind of like gets in the way of my values and kind of like the principles that I live by, I can't hijack myself to just go there and make money and then, believe that I'm gonna live a peaceful life. It will probably haunt me for the rest of my life if I just jump in. But the first one is alignment. The second one is culture and team environment, and that's just like the overall communication. Are you here, man? Your video froze. Oh no, you were just sitting still. You were just sitting still. I was like, is this frozen? Yeah. So the second step is team environment and culture communication across the board. How is the team communication, the organization, all of that jazz. And the third big one is like financials, because once the alignment, the culture, the finances are there, is like, all right, so this could be a potential fit, and then I'll just go deeper into like standards, expectations, leadership, their softwares, how it's all programmed. Yeah.
That's one thing. I'm happy you brought that up. It's something that we talked about, the mistakes business owners make. There's a big one there. I can't believe I forgot this, dude. Expectations, right?
Yep.
What is the KPI? How many calls do you want me taking in a day? What are the required calls? Because again, man, I do things outside of making other people money, which is what we do. We're
like consultants.
Yeah, we're very well paid consultants that are putting a lot of money in other people's pockets and putting a little money in our pockets, right? So I'm doing things outside of making other people money. So if like I turned an offer down for a super good company, 9-figure, people would kill to have it. It's a marketing agency. They've worked with a ton of celebrities, top guys doing like 25K a month consistently, but they require you to take a minimum of 8 calls a day. And if it's the mastermind, which is their like super high ticket product, that's an hour and 45-minute call.
Holy shit. An hour and 40 minutes?
That's the general time it takes to get through that call.
So is that like presentation and all that, like all combined? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they do it's like an hour 40, because it's like a 99K package, right? So it's like a super crazy presentation. And so he's like, yeah, some guys are doing 8 hours, some guys are doing 14 hours. It depends on the day. And I was like, nah, bro. 14 hours? No. I'm good.
And that's 14 hours being on closing calls where you focused and is taking your utmost time to another human being, which is draining as fuck.
Super slow ramp up period. Month 1, you get 2 to 3 calls. Month 2, you get 3 to 4. Month 3, you get like 5 to 6. And by month 4, you can be ramped up to 8 calls a day. However, until you get fully ramped up, you only get cold leads that you have to set yourself. You don't get warm inbound leads, which I'm cool with that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not like a baby bird closer, but you don't get warm inbound leads until month 4. It's like you have to prove yourself. And I'm like, a little bit of an ego check, but it's like I've already proved myself in this industry, dude. Like I'm not here to onboard an offer that's going to tell me it's going to take 4 months before I can make my income goal. Like, no, sorry. That's just me, bro. It's me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there as well. I mean, if people value, I guess, or if someone is a little bit newer than you, then I believe like that grind is worth it.
New closing opportunity, because they train you on the whole process. They're looking more for newer reps, is what I was told, but they wanted to bring me on.
I assume because it's a system that already works, and all they need is like trustworthy people to plug in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Cool, man. So
it's all about fit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if we should go with a last question or end it right here?
Well,
I'll let you call the shots. Well, it's pretty much Danny here. I wrote it down. We can actually end with this because I wrote David needs to rant. David needs to rant. A little bit of a silent moment there. But dude, I'm
sorry, bro. I'm looking at the question.
I'm gonna rant.
Go for it, bro. Rant away.
So there's a thing, right, happening in my Facebook profile, and it could be me allowing that to happen. You know, that could just be a lesson that you give me at the end of this and just slash me across the table. But let's just go for it. So I'm getting a ton of DMs, both by people in our mastermind and people discovering our podcast, people that are new in this world, and most of them are bugging the hell out of me. They're sending follow-ups, 5 messages in a row, 7 messages in a row. Hey, book a call. Hey, would you be against me? You know, connecting, setting opportunities with me. And I'm like, dude, come on. And then, you know, it's like silly at this point to how many DMs I'm getting with a very, very similar message. And the thing is that annoys me the most is I know whenever I help them with like the interview or landing an offer or like connecting them, they'll just disappear and never talk to me again until they need another thing, which annoys me the most.
They come to you, they ask you for something. This goes back to our core values, David. Value in, value out.
Yep.
You have to provide value to get value, right? I don't know why that is, bro, because I don't get those. I don't. I'm just gonna put it out there. No, like if people want to message me, go for it, but I don't, bro. The only people that I get messages from are people inside of our mastermind. And if it's like hey, Chance, I loved your podcast episode. Do you have any opportunities you know of? I tell them to go watch networking masterclass and then get back to me, right? So nah, bro, I don't get much of that. I don't know why. Maybe you're more approachable than I am. I don't know,
maybe, but you know, here's what I want to say because I'm getting
David said
a little bit annoyed, right? I mean, stop it. You know, that means stop it. No, but it's fine to reach out to me. I'm getting a little bit annoyed when people just, you know, send a bunch of messages and then they disappear. Like, dude, if you want to, you know, have a relationship with me or take something from me, just be upfront, right? That's all I ask for. You don't need to ask how I'm doing or, you know, go on this very long message line of, you know, building up, I don't know, your confidence or something like that, or warming up the conversation. Like, it's okay. It's okay to reach out, but just be like upfront with your intentions. Most of the time I can actually see through people, and you know, I'm very bold when I message people. It's for example with this last person that reached out to me the first time, just asked me how I'm doing, my journey. And then, you know, he told me about like his previous journey of, you know, failing an opportunity. And then the next message, he writes, would you be against connecting me with setting opportunities? You just told me you know, kind of like got cut from your team because you didn't perform. And now you're asking me for opportunities? Like, where's the trust? Where's the trust? Come on. Well, it's, I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just asking for some common sense.
No, of course, man. I had somebody. You know what? Fuck it. I'll say her name. She watches this anyway. Reem. She's somebody that we both know. When she first joined UCM, she would message me, and she would have some bullshit conversation for like 10 minutes, and then she would want something, right? So it got to the point where every time she would message me, I'd be like, "Let's skip the small talk. What do you want? What are you here for? I don't want to waste 15 minutes talking about how the sky's blue, and then you ask me what you want. What do you want?" Right? And it got to a point where she stopped coming to me because that was probably a little brash, but hey, you know, it is what it is. She's killing it now, though, man. She's on Legendary Marketer. She's slaying it. So
nice. But that's just something I want to get out, man. If you know people want to reach out to me, you know, keep reaching out to me because I really appreciate it. I want to help people out. But if you want to take something and just, walk away, that's not someone I respect. That's probably someone that's going to get into one opportunity and then I'll never talk to you again. But if you want to have a relationship with me long term, because I'm building something really amazing here with Chance, and there's going to be ton on opportunities on top of opportunities. So if you want to have a relationship with me, man, just be upfront with it. Buy me dinner first, and then we can talk about the other stuff.
Hey, same here. If David's overwhelmed with messages, y'all can feel free to message me too. I don't know why they're only messaging you, bro. I
can send you screenshots.
I got a couple of bookings on my calendar back in December and early January, but other than that, it's just been UCM people. But it is what it is, bro.
It is what it is. Well, people are gonna watch this and I don't know, see us talk about it. So keep messaging me, message Chance, and then
before we end, if you watched it all the way to the end, you enjoyed the rapid fire Q&A, give us a like, helps with the algorithm. Hit that subscribe button, turn the noties on if you want to be notified when we drop a video. And what should we have in common, David?
More questions so we can make another one. If they liked it. And if you
watched all the way to here, drop some questions you have that we didn't address, and maybe David and I'll reach out and give you a customized answer.
For sure, man. For sure. Like if you like the video. If you disagree, because it makes us feel good, and then we'll speak to you from there. Peace out.